Thanks for staying with us. Let's get you some national updates now. The CBI and the Enforcement Directorate have submitted their status reports on the massive 2G spectrum scam to the Supreme Court today. The Enforcement Directorate now has confirmed and informed the court that 31 firms have been summoned in connection with the scam. The ED's report also states that it has uncovered large-scale violations of foreign exchange laws, money laundering and forgery, but more details are awaited. With the Joint Parliamentary Committee getting set to start its probe into the 2G scam and the telecom policy from 1998 to 2008, its chairman, PC Chako, says the Public Accounts Committee must confine itself to studying only the CAG report on the matter. Speaking exclusively to NDTV's Neha Khanna, the JPC chairman said the issue of calling the Prime Minister to appear was one that would be decided later by the entire committee. Asked if the PAC may summon the Prime Minister, he said that was beyond the mandate of the PAC, as was holding an inquiry into larger policy issues.
The Joint Parliamentary Committee that has been set up to probe the 2G scam is going to meet for the first time on the 24th of this month. To talk about that, we are now joined by the chairman of that committee, Mr. PC Chako. Sir, thank you so much for talking to us. Sir, the big question that everybody is asking, will the JPC summon the Prime Minister?
JPC is meant for a purpose. With great confidence reposed in the JPC, a unanimous resolution is passed by the Parliament. More than the Parliament, I believe that the whole country is waiting for the outcome of the JPC. So we are not going to start with whether we are going to call X or Y. That is not going to be our agenda.
But do you think it would be appropriate for the PAC to summon the Prime Minister now that a JPC has been constituted?
Not only summoning the Prime Minister, but a roving inquiry by the PAC may not be necessary at this juncture. Because PAC, you remember the history, a little bit of that I'll tell you. The government was of the opinion that it is not necessary to have a JPC. Because government was not averse to constituting a JPC. Because I know I had discussion with all the top leaders of our party and none of them are averse in sanctioning or taking a JPC. But the more question at that point of time, the government opinion was that the PAC in any case will have to analyze the CAG report. Yes. And the whole issue of this thing, and the Prime Minister volunteered that he is ready to appear before the PAC also. At that point of time, the leaders of many political parties, especially the opposition leaders, in Rajya Sabha and in Lok Sabha, they said that the PAC scope is limited. PAC cannot go into the wider question of the policy. They can only deal with the CAG report and the financial losses, if any. These kind of limited issues only they can. So this was the bone of contention. This was the two sides of the argument between the government and the opposition. Anyway, for the smooth running of the House, it was become necessary to consider JPC. So government also said that, okay, even if the PAC inquiry is on, even if the CBI inquiry is on, even if the other agencies are also inquiring into it, okay, let there be a JPC. And that JPC is constituted. Once it is constituted, then definitely another committee of the Parliament need not go into the wider question of the policy implementation and its defects, shortcomings and all these things. They need not, because it is a matter, but at the same time it is headed by a senior member of the Parliament. So they have to be, in their wisdom, they have to decide that it was the demand of the opposition mainly. See, summoning the Prime Minister, nobody has decided. According to my information, there was some news item. According to my information, even the PAC has not taken a decision to summon the Prime Minister.
But there's a debate going on.
No, I don't think so. Because, to take a decision in the committee, then they have to take a decision. They have to write to the Speaker. The Speaker has to give the permission. And it is not, since the JPC is being constituted, I hope that in the coming days, PAC will confine their inquiry to a limited subject of the CAG report.
Meanwhile, an uproar was heard in the Parliament today over the latest WikiLeaks cables that reveal how the United States found the January 2006 reshuffle of the Manmohan Singh cabinet a pro-US exercise, mainly the transfer of Mani Shankar Iyer from the Petroleum Ministry. In a cable dated the 30th of January, 2 days after the reshuffle, David Mulford says the cabinet shuffle contained lots of good news confirming the UPA government's determination to maintain rapid progress in the India-US relationship. The demotion of Iyer was the most significant indicator, and now the Congress leader has reacted, saying he's not surprised by Mr. Mulford's comments.
I was given temporary charge of the ministry. I was told explicitly that it is temporary charge. I had thought that maybe I'd be there for a week or two. As it is, I was there for 20 months. And so, it is not surprising that at the first opportunity when the reshuffle took place, I was relieved of my temporary charge.
In more diplomatic cables on New Delhi put out by WikiLeaks, there's a candid conversation between former National Security Advisor M.K. Narayanan and the US envoy to India, Tim Ramer. After meeting Narayanan in August 2009, Ramer concluded that Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was isolated within his own government in his great relief in talks and negotiations with Pakistan. Ramer noted that Narayanan readily conceded that he had conferences and differences thereafter with Dr. Singh on Pakistan. The advisor recounted to the ambassador how after the Prime Minister spoke of India's shared destiny with Pakistan, he said, "You have a shared destiny, we don't." Ramer observed that though Narayanan's tough stance on Pakistan was well known, his readiness to distance himself from his boss Manmohan Singh would suggest that Singh is more isolated than we thought within his own inner circle. Suresh Kalmari, the former chief of the organizing committee of the Commonwealth Games, is being questioned for the second time by the CBI. The agency is investigating the overlays scam where equipment was hired and bought at inflated prices. Earlier, Kalmari's close aides in the organizing committee too were arrested. Moving to news internationally, the nuclear crisis deepens in Japan. There's been a third explosion at the Fukushima nuclear complex in Japan this morning, raising serious concerns about a nuclear catastrophe. But the Japanese authorities later informed that the IAEA that the level of radioactivity has been decreasing at the site. Those living within 20 to 30 kilometers have been asked to leave, and until they do, they should stay indoors and have their doors and windows shut as well. The level of radiation had reached harmful levels after the explosion. In a televised address to the nation, the Prime Minister said radiation from the nuclear plant has received and been reaching harmful levels. Well, NDTV's Vishnu Shom was the first Indian journalist to reach Sendai in Japan. The well-developed city was completely washed off and devastated by the tsunami. He sent us this report from the affected area.
The sheer devastation that we've seen on the banks of the Notorigawa River in Sendai is very, very difficult to describe. Take a look at some of this. This is the manual of a Nintendo Wii video game console, and that's the box. I wonder if that belonged to a small child. My own son plays Nintendo Wii, and that looks like a vanity case. I wonder if it belonged to that little child's mother. And that looks like a dress, or maybe just a piece of cloth. But this is just one or two items in the wreckage of what looks like one house. It hardly looks like a house anymore. But if you look at the story of Sendai and the extent of the human tragedy and devastation over here, it's just incredible. Take a look at this. This entire area that you see in front of you, with the Pacific Ocean lying directly north, was all a human habitation, and this is all that exists of it. No one would ever think this is anything but a dump yard. What I can tell you is that this was a residential colony. It's all gone. Old memories, a lot of lives, a lot of property. This is the story of Sendai.
In fact, forget about the numbers. No one can accurately predict how many people would have died in an expanse as large as this. Not yet, by any rate. A short distance away, we see a handful of rescuers make their way through the rubble, trying to locate anyone who may miraculously be alive. As I drive along this road, the situation just seems to be getting worse. I meet a man looking to spot the remains of his home.
Many people die. Many, yeah. This used to be somebody's home. And if you look behind this, you can actually see one house that's almost completely submerged. And the field in the foreground strewn with wood. This isn't a dump yard for wood or debris. In fact, all this wood was once a home, or many homes in fact, just 48 hours back. Today it's an entirely wrecked, ruined area. The only sign that this was a residential area are a handful of cars which exist over here. And this is typically what a tsunami does. We've seen this in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands as well. Dagger-type blows which come in and end everything, destroy everything in their wake, and then draw it all back out into the sea.
With aftershocks in Sendai are featured several times a day, and the majority of these are pretty major aftershocks. The situation here is very far from normalcy. Even as people try and piece together their lives, rebuilding parts of Sendai will take months, if not years. With S. Dhanpal, Vishnu Shom for NDTV.
Still ahead on headlines now, as a state of emergency is declared in Bahrain. We get in touch with a resident there over the phone line with the ground details. More from that conversation when we come back.